Alright, hello and welcome back to another Flight Sim Fan video. And we're back talking about X-Plane now that COVID's kind of come and we're all in quarantine. I have a bit more time in my hands. I just finished up with school, so time to get back into making videos, which I do enjoy making. And this video is going to be covering how to brief departure SIDs, and pretty much we're going to be looking at SID stars, approach charts, just looking at the IFR charts, just to kind of give you a better insight on maybe things you've been missing on them, or maybe things you didn't understand. So we'll go through some of that stuff. We're going to start off in Toronto, and it's pretty big international airport. This I'm using, by the way, Navigraph charts. So this is not for real world flying. I will mention that, not for real world flying. Hey, I found it. All right, cool. So we're looking at the dead key for departure, and this one, there's multiple dead key forwards. There's one that uses 3-3 right and left, and 1-5 left and right, and then there's this version that uses 2-3, 2-4 left and right, 0-6 left and right, and 0-5, which is what we're using today. We're taking off from 2-4 right, so you want to make sure it's this chart. So you always want to make sure Toronto Pearson International Airport. This is a Jefferson style chart. Toronto, Ontario. The effective date, which is out of date, but it's a sim, so that's fine. But you always want to make sure the effective date is obviously within your time, so you're not going illegal. Gives you transition altitudes. This is where you transition from the altimeter that ATC is giving you to standard, 2992. Radar required. Caution, runways 05, 06 left, 23, 24 left, and right. Simultaneous parallel departures, which pretty much means you're going to be taking off and landing from these two here and that one there. They're pretty close by. Okay, departures in use. That's from that part. Safe altitude within 100 nautical miles is 4,900 feet. If you lose comms, visual, if you just lose completely your situational awareness, you have no idea where you are and everything's broken, everything's going bad. If you go to 4,900 feet, you're clear of every obstacle within 100 nautical miles. So that's your nice safe altitude there. That's why it's called safe altitude, 4,900 feet. So if you lose everything, 4,900 feet or higher, within 100 miles of Pearson, center of the aerodrome. The main thing that we want to talk about here is kind of what you're looking at. So when you're briefing this card, so you pull up the card, you're doing a departure briefing. You say, you ready for the briefing? Other guy says, yes. You say, okay, so we're taking off from a 2-4 right, which is on that side here. And you can see it describes it to you a bit here, and you can kind of piece it together, but they also give you a great little readout right here. So it's good to read it and look at the picture at the same time if you can. So unless otherwise assigned by ATC, climb heading 237, which in this case is the runway heading, to 1,000 feet, and it says 1,000. And climbing left turn to a heading of 235. So that's 2 degrees off your runway heading. So it's not much of a left turn, but it is a left turn. So climbing left turn to 235 or as assigned. So if they give you a different heading, follow what ATC says. Expect radar vectors to savor or as assigned, then proceed via depicted route. So you're gonna take off, climb to 1,000 feet runway heading, and then we're past 1,000. 235, and you might think to yourself, well, what altitude can I go up to? 10,000, 15,000. If you look on the right side, it gives you the box. So it says, unless otherwise assigned by ATC, maintain 5,000 feet. So if they don't give you an altitude, if they don't say you're cleared to climb 10,000 on departure, if they don't give you anything, you're cleared to 5,000 feet, no higher than that, which is 100 feet above your safe altitude as well. So you're clear of everything too. So the departure will go like this: 2-4 right, take off, 1,000, maintain 237 degrees, 1,000 feet. Then it's a left turn to 235 degrees, climb to 5,000 feet. By this point, you'd be talking to Toronto departure, crossing maybe about 3,000 feet in your climb to 5, and they'd usually get you higher and start turning you on to savor. So that's how to kind of get your mind in the picture, in the view there. Another thing that's kind of important, I mean, if you're flying an airliner with 2 engines operative, it shouldn't be a problem. Maybe it gets a bit of a problem when you have 1 engine up if you're super heavy. But the SID requires a minimum climb gradient. So you got to climb at a certain rate. And climb gradients are in feet per nautical mile, not feet per minute. And they give you this little chart to convert that into. So 2-4 right, as you notice, isn't on this chart. All you got 0.5, 0.6 left, 0.6 right. And you're saying, well, I'm taking off 2-4 right. I can just climb at 10 feet like per minute. Like, what can I climb at? Or am I supposed to climb at? So if it doesn't state your feet per nautical mile, it's always the default 200 nautical miles, or 200 feet per nautical mile. I was going to say 200 nautical miles, quite a bit. But if it doesn't state your runway, you got to maintain the 200 feet per nautical mile or greater. Let's say, for example, you're taking off 0.5. You need 360 feet per nautical mile until 2,700 feet. So if you look here, 360 feet per nautical mile, you find your ground speed on the climb out, and it gives you the feet per minute. So this is required feet per nautical mile, ground speed at the top of the table, and feet per minute inside here. So let's say you need to take off 0.5 and you're a 737. Let's just say your climb out ground speed is planned for 150 knots. You would need a 900 feet per minute climb, which in a 737, I think even 1 engine, it shouldn't be a problem unless you're really heavy. I'm not pro at 737s. I'm just saying, just by general knowledge, I think it can do it just fine. But that's how you use that table there. Lost comms, if you lose comms, you got to go to a different chart, 10.3. We'll look at that in a second as well. So that's this part of the box, and then you can move on. So you're departing 1,000 feet, and then 235 till 5,000 feet. They'll vector you and get you a little higher. They'll probably say direct saver. Maybe they'll even get you SECHIT. They can do really whatever they want as long as the traffic's there, or not there, I should say. So let's say you're going on saver. And as you're seeing these, 85 degrees, 7 miles to this point, 083 degrees, 32 miles to dead key. In your FMC, 1 person should be reading these waypoints and headings and miles out, and the other person should be checking. If you're doing 2 crew, the other person should be checking each waypoint, each heading, and each range. Obviously, if you're by yourself with the X-plane, most people are. You could just verify yourself. But if you're doing smart co-pilot like I like to do with another person, that's how you should run it. So saver, SECHIT, dead key, and then it branches off into all these points here. So these are your transitions. So in our flight plan, we were, if you remember, dead key 4, MIGLO transition to HABs. So dead key 4, the MIGLO transition is here. And as you can see, it also gives us an additional waypoint in that, which is SANN. So we're going to go dead key to SANN. It says cross SANN at or above 250. So in your flight plan, make sure, or in your FMC, make sure SANN is set to 250 or higher. Aircraft flight plan 250 or above, advise ATC if unable. So if you can't make 250 by SANN, let them know you can't do it. And maybe they'll give you something else. So they should give you something else. It's 250 by SANN. And then you're continuing to MIGLO and the rest of your flight plan to Montreal. So that's a standard departure, just looking at the departure. That's what that is. So briefing will go like this. Taking off out of the Toronto International Airport. It's the 10-3C chart, effective date of 30 January. It's an RNAV SID, transition altitude of 18,000 feet. And we're using we're using 2-4 right today. So we have some simultaneous departures in use and arrivals. Our 100-mile safe is 4,900 feet. It's a jet departure. And the airport elevation is 569. We'll contact departure 1288 or 127.57. This tower will give you which one to contact once you depart. We'll be taking off 2-4 right, maintain a heading of 237 till 1,000 feet, and that climbing left turn to 235, climb up to 5,000 feet, and we'll expect vectors to saver. 200 feet per nautical mile for our climb gradient today, and will in our calculations that dispatch will give you, I mean, you'll definitely make it for 200 feet per nautical mile. That's more planning purposes. Some airlines in their standard operating procedures, they'll just say dead key for departure, 10-3 effective date this, and we'll climb via the SID. some of them just say that. In VATSIM with people, I like to brief a bit more, just for my mental state as well. Gets myself in the picture. But you can do it the way the airline does it. Your standard operating procedure, follow the SOP of the airline. Okay, so the HABS for arrival. This is a star now. So that was a SID we looked at. This is a star. So standard terminal arrival route. So if you remember from the dead key departure, we were going to Miglo. This is Miglo carrying over. This is how close of a flight it is, like 45 minutes. We're carrying over from dead key. Then we went to Sannon. Then we went to Miglo. And now we're carrying on from here. So Miglo transition. And we're transitioning from dead key 4 to Miglo, then Miglo transitioning into the HABS 4 arrival. This is HABS 4. To redo, and if you're going to runway, if you're planning for 06 left or right or runway 10, you got to be 330 or below. So that's what the line above says. If this solid blue line was under it, it's 330 or above. If you have a blue line here and a blue line here, you got to be at 330. Let's see if I can find one of those here, like that. Oh no, that's in between. Okay, yeah. Well, it would look like this, but just with one number in there. But that just means between 3 and 4,000. So redo at flight level 330 or below. We're not going to 06 left or right, so that doesn't go for us. IGVUD. EPNOC. Now we're going to 24 left and right. So we'll be using this one. Flight level 240 or below at EPNOC. Arrive, and we want to make sure that your FMC is programmed like this. So if you're using the Boeing aircraft, I think Airbus does it as well, it would say 240B, which means 240 below. If it had an A, it's above. Arrive, then at HABS for 24 left and right, we got to be 16,000 feet or below. And then depending on what runway you take, it'll take you to a different direction here. So we're taking 24 right, so we're going to go to Kamu. And then we're going to go straight to Vevku, which is 9,000 or below. If we needed to hold, we'd hold at Agnag, most likely. That's the published hold they've given us, which is maximum speed of 210 knots. Inbound course of, so the outbound course of 237. Coming inbound here to Tidas, which is here. Maximum speed of 210 knots at a maximum altitude of 4,000. 4,000 or below there. Then to max odd, which is same speed restriction of 210 knots. You can't go above that. In between 3,000 and 4,000 feet. And at OV, there's no restriction there. But you might be thinking to yourself, okay, well that gets me on a downwind type of looking thing, which is just sends me off in that direction, and there's just arrows. So what do I do now? So these arrows mean you're going to be vectored. So this is a open star. So an open star means you're going to be vectored out. So it means that you're going to head this way, this way, this way, and there's say Air Canada 585, turn right, heading, whatever heading they want, intercept localizer runway 24 right. They'll give you a vector into the ILS or into the RNAV or whatever you're doing. Approach wise, a closed star would take you from OV and just without this arrows, if you keep it in LNAV, OV would just have this arrow turn right in onto the approach for the runway. This is an open star. So when you're going through this with your other pilot in the aircraft, go over a few things. You know, Montreal Airport 10-2C, the effective date of the chart. It's an RNAV star. Airport elevation, the frequencies for the ATIS, transition altitude of 18,000 feet. Now, that one's important more if you're flying in Europe. In North America, 18 is pretty standard, but sometimes in Europe you can get 5,000, 6,000. They have all different types of altitudes at different airports, so it's good to mention that one, just as in your brain to get used to saying it. GNSS required or an RAV 1D. Safe altitude with 100 miles is 7,400 feet. And the runways 24 left and right and 28 are for non-GNS equipped aircraft. YJ and DME must be operational though. In our case, in X-Plane, you all have GNSS, so it's fine. And come through here, maybe just mentions a little bit of terrain to the right. It's pretty far off your course, but a little bit of terrain off the right side. The highest point being this one right here at 38.26 feet. And then you could just go through your FMC and make sure all these altitudes, as I was saying, and speeds match. And also making sure that the degrees, the range, all match as well. Moving on to the approach. Let's say we're taking the ILS. We'll close this chart. Approach. And we're taking the, let's say, just for argument's sake, we'll take the ILS 24 right. And we'll add that to the route. And let me see if I can find a chart for that. It should pop up a chart for me. Hey, I put it on the thing. That's fine. We'll close that. Let's zoom in. So, a nice briefing is a nice steady pace, clear voice, and you're not trying to rush. If you're trying to rush, usually you don't understand what you're saying, and the other person has to brief, is being briefed by you, and you'll be like, "Can you repeat that again? Can you say that again?" Or she'll be saying, you know, no one will know what's going on. So, starts off. Now these Jefferson charts are nice. You could just read left to right, 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 the whole chart. Montreal International Airport, Trudeau. It's 11-5, effective the 20th of June. It's an ILS runway 24 right. Localizer frequency is 111.9. Make sure you got that plugged in. If it's in the Airbus, it auto-tunes, but make sure it auto-tune the correct one. We have a final approach course of 237 degrees, or 237. Our glide slope check will be at Volax at 1520, 1,520 feet. Our ILS minimums for an ILS decision altitude will be 306 feet with an RVR of 2,600, and that's your visibility. So RVR 2,600 is half a mile, or half mile. If we don't meet those minimums and we have to go around, in case of a go around, it's a climb to 3,000 feet on the runway heading of 237, then a right turn direct to the YUL VOR. So the go around will be climb, runway heading, 3,000 feet, turn right direct to Montreal YUL VOR. Okay, got a touchdown zone elevation of 106. MSA highest sector altitude is 3,300 feet. Now MSAs, I'll explain this for a bit. This is minimum sector altitude, and this is measured 25 miles from, in this case, the YUL VOR. Got to make sure what this is referencing to. This could be referenced to a waypoint. It could be referenced to an NDB. So you got to make sure that you're looking at the right one and you're not confusing with what the 25 miles is based off of. In this case, Montreal VOR is all the way at the top left over here, and it says it's all the way at the top left there. Okay, and then safe altitude, which we covered in the STAR, was 7,400 feet. And localizer is reliable only within 10 degrees either side of center line. Procedure turns not required, and we can expect simultaneous approaches with runway 24 left, so parallel approaches. Coming down here, as we stated earlier, our minimums are 306 feet. I like to say the minimums twice, and I like to say the glide path check twice, because you really want those in your head when you're coming down on the approach. You don't want to be looking down at these numbers, obviously. In the Airbus, and on the 777, it'll display the waypoint with the altitude next to it, so you can actually check, and it's very nice in that. But if you're flying a Cessna on steam gauges, you want it in your brain as much as possible. So as I said earlier, minimums are 306 feet. Which takes us 200 above ground level. It is a 3-degree glide slope, starting at Lana, and the recommended approach is 3,000 feet, heading at 237. Okay, after Lana, intercept the glide slope at DME of 10.5 from the IUL localizer DME, which is right here. That's at the that's on the 06 side of the runway. So we're landing on this side. Get to Volax, and it's your glide path check. So at 5.8 DME from the IUL localizer DME, you should be 1520 feet, or yeah, 1,520 feet. If your altitude is massively higher or lower than that, and you are on the glide slope, so you've captured glide slope, you're on the glide slope, and you're really high or really low, it means you most likely caught a false glide slope, and a go around should be initiated. If you're on the glide slope and it's the correct one, you should be 1520 or pretty close to it. So as soon as you're descending, you hit 306 feet, runway in sight, landing, you can continue. Or runway not in sight, or you don't have a visual at the airport, you execute the go around there. Once again, if we have an event of a misapproach, 3,000 feet, runway heading, right turn direct to the YUL VOR. We have the SSALR approach lighting, so we can expect to see this on our approach. And that is the ILS for 24 right. One thing to add to this, if you had a separate chart, is your exit point. So just off memory, Bravo 2 usually works out, but obviously don't just go off memory. In real life and in sim, look at the chart and find your exit point. So you can say, we plan to exit Bravo 2. So that's the approach chart. Let's see if I missed anything in my mind here. I think I covered pretty much everything. So once again, thank you for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to leave you some footage of VFR departure out of Toronto in VR and X-Plane on the right seat. And if you have any questions, do let me know. It might have been one of the more boring videos, but hopefully it went through everything that it was meant to. And I'll leave a Discord in the down description, and I'll leave some links to Navigraph as well, where you can get those charts and have a look at those as well, and ForeFlight as well. So thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next one.